of these Players' Cup champions are going to be bringing. Some really interesting choices here, and the thing I see straight away is we've got a weather war on our hands here, Adam. Santino picking Kyogre as his restricted, whereas Wolfe has opted for that Groudon. So a lot of the time it's making sure that you get the weather up on your side so that the synergy that you've built around it on your team is able to come through, pick up those KOs.
I really like that we get to see this matchup. It's something that I hadn't seen in a little while, and it's a slightly different version of Kyogre and Groudon than we've seen previously, but I do like it. And I like that when you've only got one, you have to be really kind of thoughtful about your weather, with both trainers really committing to playing around with that weather, right? You know, the Tornadus being able to take advantage with the Hurricane, the Rillaboom feeling very, very safe against fire attacks, even the Serena as well. Really nice bit of team building there from Santino, and Wolfe doing the same thing around that Groudon. You know, the Cherim going to be highly reliant on, of course, having the Sun available to activate its ability. The Entei able to take great advantage of it, dealing even more damage. So a whole lot to really think about. Making sure you control the weather and you play it right is going to be really important for both of these trainers. I personally have always been a bigger fan of the Kyogre as well. But
okay.
I know it's a little bit controversial. I know a lot of people have seen more success from the Groudon, but I've always been a bit of a bigger fan of the Kyogre, and I think you know, if you get it in after the Groudon, you're always going to be in a good position to take that game. So really the pressure on Santi a little bit to manage the board and get the Kyogre in at the right time.
And I think sometimes Groudon, as much as it's my favourite out of the two, I normally saw a lot of success with it when it's paired up with a second restricted, like Xerneas, for example. And on its own, it maybe doesn't have the same utility as something like the Kyogre, when you've got a Pokemon like Tornadus that can go for those kind of priority rain dances as well to help settle the weather back up in your favour if needs be. Then Kyogre definitely can work really well in kind of team synergy. But Groudon as well certainly has a lot of potential. It can pack a really heavy hit, and if you're able to kind of switch it and utilise it really well, then you can definitely pick up those KOs as well. But I think it's time, Adam, to jump into the battle of the weather wars. Let's jump into game one and see which of these Pokemon is going to come out on top, and whether it's going to be raining or sun shining at the end of the match. Wolfe leading out with the Zapdos and the Incineroar. No restricted on the field yet, but we will of course see the Intimidate come down from that Incineroar into two grass-type Pokemon here. We've got the Rillaboom and the Serena out for action.
Yep, no restricted. Both trainers very acknowledging that, you know, you've got to make sure that you don't just give up your restricted early and you lose control of that weather. So really nicely done and nicely kind of set up, I think. You know, Serena coming in with the Queenly Majesty could be quite important, limiting and taking away some of those options from the Incineroar. Yes, it got the Intimidate down, but I think overall taking away something like the Fake Out from it and just saying, no, you can't do that, really, really important. Looking through the moves available over on this Serena, there's one I'm really excited about. I don't know if it comes to the fore now, but it's actually a move that I think Santi is the only person playing it in this tournament, and it could be really, really huge. I'm talking, of course, about Triple Axel.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to see that come into effect at some point in this match. But Rillaboom just going to go straight away for the Fake Out, obviously not affected by its partner's ability and can capitalise on that. Zapdos going to retaliate with the Thunderbolt into Rillaboom, only doing a little amount of damage here, leaving itself slightly vulnerable, but Serena just going to go straight away for that U-turn. No Triple Axel as of yet. Just Santino utilising this opportunity to maybe switch up the ball position, bring on one of those Pokemon from the back. Going for that Weavile though, so that Pokemon can come in, apply some possible ice pressure to the opposing Zapdos.
Yeah, that's going to be one way to deal with the Zapdos, and you've got to start forcing Wolfe down to the last 2 or 3 Pokemon early on, because that's how you force out the Groudon. Santino revealing to us, yes, there is that Kyogre in the back, so I think he's going to be trying to kind of apply the pressure early doors to get the Zapdos gone, force him to reveal the Groudon as early as possible. There was not just one Triple Axel, by the way. There was actually 2 Triple Axels on this team. When I was looking through it and reading a little bit about this match, I was like, oh, that makes sense on the Weavile. And I saw it again on the Serena, and I was like, oh, it really committed to the Triple Axel play.
Oh, well, doubles the chances of us maybe seeing it, and Weavile is indeed going to go for the Triple Axel, but into the detect of the opposing Zapdos here. Rillaboom going to go for the U-turn, however, down into that opposing Incineroar. Does a decent chunk of damage with a critical hit as well. Going to be proccing the berry on that opposing Incineroar there. Citrus Berry going to regain a little bit of HP from Incineroar, and of course some good information as well for Santino of the item choices that Wolfe has gone for here.
It helps you just kind of pick through this team in game number 1. Again, it's that closed team sheet that you've just got to be so thoughtful of and make sure that you're learning as much as you can in wins and losses. This is a tough choice for Santino. He is going to go for it, though, and we get to see the item on the Kyogre as well, which I think could be pretty impactful. One thing I really like about this Kyogre is it reminds me of about 2010 when Choice Scarf was the choice on the Kyogre every single time, and being able to get that in and be able to maybe just put down some big damage could be really big here. This could be an immediate switcheroo, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, Kyogre can apply a lot of pressure to the field, but with the parting shot on the Incineroar, it does allow Wolfe the utility to bring in that Groudon and change up the weather. And Santino doesn't really have an option to change that weather out without switching the Kyogre at some point in this game. Of course, Kyogre, though, can still deal some good damage with something like an Ice Beam into either of Wolfe's Pokemon here, but that's not necessarily the move you want to be locked into. Kyogre does like to be in the rain the most.
It wants to be in the rain. It's taking advantage of that Choice Scarf and throwing out huge water spouts would be preferred here. The Weavile in a really good position, though, and obviously Santi, the only person in this tournament bringing the Weavile, might be able to capitalize on it. Just, you know, throw out triple axles that are going to be able to land, you know, consistent damage on something like the Groudon. Look at it in the menu. Super effective on both. Not even messing around saying, well, you know what? You're going to show me the Groudon. I might have to take my Kyogre away, but I will catch something as you do that.
That's the thing, you need to pick what Wolfe's going to do here, because Wolfe's going to be, you know, pretty certain there's going to be an Ice Beam coming out from that opposing Kyogre or a switch at this position. It's just making sure that you can kind of call what your opponent's going to do. Wolfe does decide to switch here, bringing in the Incineroar. That's of course going to be able to take an Ice Beam much better than something that the Groudon would have if that's the target choice Santino has gone for, but instead goes just for the Water Spout here. Does good damage, catches that Incineroar on the switch, and even in the sun that still does deal some critical damage. Incineroar doesn't have the berry recovery anymore, but we see it now finally, Adam. That triple axle coming out, connecting onto that opposing Zapdos, and connects twice onto it, as Zapdos can retaliate with the Weather Ball. Fantastic synergy on the team, going to be turning into a Fire-type move due to the sun in the sky, and just takes out that Weavile.
Oh, that Weavile's so unlucky to not land the third hit of triple axle. Obviously, the most damaging of the three as well. It gets stronger with each consecutive hit, and the item choice there, making sure that you're hitting these moves every time, just didn't pay off. I think if he lands that hit there, it's a whole different ball game, and the Zapdos is just knocked out. So it's a really unfortunate situation. Being locked into the Water Spout, you know, yes, it did some decent damage, but the sun's still up, reducing that, which is a problem. And of course, your switching options are getting a little more limited. So it's going to be a tough turn or two for Santino to stabilize and get through this one, I think, and needs to find an answer quickly. The fake out is defended, though. I do like that the Queenly Majesty is back in play.
Yes, definitely, but both of Santino's Pokemon are sitting quite vulnerable to this opposing Zapdos, whether it is with like electric-type moves or with that Weather Ball as well, coming down into that opposing Serena, for example. Wolfe just going to switch things out and bringing the Cherrim into the field, so all of the Sun synergy really being artistically demonstrated here by Wolfe. The Cherrim's going to go for that Flower Gift ability. You know, it looks so happy out here on the field here at the Invitational, as Grassy Glide comes out from the Serena, not enough to be able to pick up the KO, and the Static is going to retaliate onto Serena and give it this potential paralysis chance. Kyogre once again going for the Water Spout. Due to the dwindled HP on Zapdos, I think it is enough to be able to pick up the KO against it, so at least that's one Pokemon Santino doesn't have to worry about, but Cherrim easily able to take that.
Yeah, and in the sun getting to change its form as soon as it comes in. It's been Wolfe's game with complete control of the weather. Speaking of 2010, I think that was the last time I saw Cherrim as well. It's definitely a bit of a throwback here from both these trainers, and then something a lot more modern alongside it. So Santino definitely got a good little bit of wiggle room out of that turn. I think just going for it, really paying off for him, not getting caught with switches too much, and finally getting that knockout on the Zapdos. I like to see that he's just committed and just going for it.
I mean, this is where the triple axle on that Serena could really come into play, because it can obviously deal some really good damage to that opposing Cherrim, and that's something that the Kyogre would really like to benefit from. At the same time, Kyogre is still sitting here in the sun, and I don't know whether it would be in Santino's best interest to try and get that Pokemon off the field and reset it, just so that Wolfe doesn't get the synergy from the sun that he's been able to demonstrate so well. You know, you've got to remember with the Incineroar as well, the sun's going to boost up any Flare Blitzes that it wants to dish out.
Nah, the Incineroar also, it's kind of being forced into the Flare Blitz with the presence of Queenly Majesties. So this could get a little bit dangerous depending on how Santi went about this turn. I mean, Wolfe just throwing Pokemon out there, throwing it into the water spout. Yeah, the sun's there, but that's still a good chunk.
Yeah, dealing good chunk to that opposing Groudon. The Cherrim able to go for the Solar Blade here, absorbing in all of that amazing sunlight here and targeting down into the opposing Kyogre here. Huge damage, amazing animation. And I mean, that's one way to stop the damage of Water Spout. Just put it right back into its Pokeball here. And Santino loses his restricted Pokemon. The Triple Axel does find its mark again on the Cherrim. We see 1, 2, and we do see the third Triple Axel able to pick up a KO in retaliation on that Cherrim.
That's exactly what was needed, and making it through the paralysis chance really helpful there. But getting that damage down on Groudon, I think, could be important. This game really close, even though Wolfe has had control of the weather for the whole game. I mean, this Groudon, yes, it can deal big damage, but it's now going to be next to, in the face of this Rillaboom and this Serena. The Serena keeping away that fake out, just saying, no, you're not allowed to do that, means the Rillaboom and Serena are both free to throw out Grassy Glides, and it's 2-2, really close. A lot riding on this Incineroar, actually, I think, to deal the damage that it needs to.
Yeah, and of course the Rillaboom as well can deal some good damage to, for example, the Groudon in retaliation here. Something like a Grassy Glide as well. Going to be able to benefit from the grassy terrain being in play, giving it that priority, and obviously the boost to the grass type moves as well. I think you're right here. If you're Wolfe, you need to make sure you're preserving your Groudon here. It's not going to be KO'd unnecessarily. And the Incineroar certainly can benefit from some of those Flare Blitzes. You're facing down against 2 grass type Pokemon. You're going to be able to deal a huge chunk of damage, but the HP on that Incineroar is not mighty either. The recoil could very easily take it out. And the Grassy Glide certainly going to help with that, reducing it down into the red of its HP stat. And the Grassy Glide actually doubling up. Not going to be enough to pick up a KO, but will guarantee that with the Flare Blitz, the recoil is going to be enough to pick up the KO against that opposing Incineroar.
Yeah, I don't know if both of those Grassy Glides were required, but it definitely making sure and trying to avoid that. Really smart play by Santi. I do like that he's gone for it, and it does leave this, Groudon just to deal with the Serena, but it ends it with the Heat Crash. I think maybe doubling into that was a little bit too much. I think you had to spread the damage around and try and deal with the Groudon as well.
Yeah, and I think in kind of our conversation about the weather wars there, it certainly was all about the sunshine. I think we saw kind of the rain come out first, and, Kyogre was very happy to be on the field, but Wolfe was able to capitalize on that same turn. I believe it was a passing shot with the Incineroar to just bring in the Groudon, and then really that's kind of how the weather stayed. Able to use the Weather Ball on the Zapdos, able to bring Cherrim in with Flower Gift, and just be able to kind of capitalize on the fact the sun was in the sky. And although I did admire the fact that Santino was kind of just bravely standing in the face of this, going for the Water Spouts that was dealing, decent damage, it just wasn't enough when you compare the offensive pressure that all of Wolfe's Pokemon were able to do in the sunny environment.
Yeah, it was just a weird mismatch, and I think it's going to have to get changed up. Let's see if it does get changed up as we head into game number 2. A lot more care needed around that Kyogre and the Drizzle ability and control of the weather. So plenty to think about between games. Wolfe, though, just throwing out the Groudon immediately, and oh, here we go. This is what I was expecting from this matchup.
Yeah, this was the adaptation I wanted to see from Santino, bringing that Tornadus that can have that priority rain dance, just to make sure that if the Groudon's on the field, bringing the sunshine, you have the option to turn it around straight away and bring that rain back onto the field. But I think that's a wonderful lead here from Wolfe, because then you've got the Zapdos to still apply some pressure with electric type moves.
Now, the Zapdos is going to be threatening both of these Pokemon with Thunderbolts, and just being able to start picking those off. So Santi really needs to get an advantage and get it quickly, I think. This could be kind of the big reveal of something that Wolfe doesn't know about because of the closed team sheet format they're playing in, and it's really up to him to surprise it. He knows that the weather's going to keep changing. I like that switch from Wolfe a lot, respecting what's coming and just saying, you know what, yeah, I think there's going to be switches involved or changes of weather. I do need to have access to drought later on.
Yeah, it's the one way Wolfe has to be able to manipulate the weather play, is making sure that you can switch that Kyogre back in. The Groudon back in, because Kyogre's on the field in its primary environment. The Tornado's helping with the rain dance, bringing the water onto the field. And of course, we know the item on that Kyogre with the Choice Scarf. It's going to be super speedy. Huge damage here. I believe picking up the KO against the Incineroar. But Zapdos able to hang on with an absolute slither of HP.
that is not a good time to switch in if you're the Incineroar. Being left to come in and just, take that damage is just such an ask. And, yes, it had the potential to be a really impactful switch if there was, if it was able to take something. But you're not going to be able to take that. Wolfe kind of being forced now down to, show the Cherrim. The Groudon's got to be coming in, and if that can get called and maybe dealt with something like another Rain Dance, Santi's going to be in a really good position to fight this one out.
I mean, the Kyogre's going to be locked into that Water Spout, and having taken the Thunderbolt from the Zapdos, the damage output is going to be reduced now. So even if, the Groudon switches in for that Zapdos, maybe brings the Sun onto the field, Cherrim's going to be happy, potentially only for a moment, though. If Tornadus wants to go for something like the Rain Dance, then the damage isn't going to be as impactful. But I feel like Wolfe maybe would want to preserve that Groudon a little bit more in the back. It might be a case of having to sacrifice the Zapdos, but Santino actually shaking things up, doesn't want to be locked into that Water Spout anymore, and Serena's going to jump in onto the action. Zapdos going for the Thunderbolt into the opposing Tornadus, though, revealing the Wackenberry on there, though, so gonna negate a lot of the damage from this first Electric type attack. It won't be there for the second one, though, if that does happen, and Zapdos gonna be helped out by its buddy Cherrim here with the Pollen Path, gonna regain a huge chunk of HP.
A lot of help for the Zapdos. It was so dangerously low, and being able to get healed up like that, really, really helpful. The Tornadus has to be careful now the Wackenberry is gone. Can't take another Thunderbolt, and of course, getting that Icy Wind damage down is going to help a little bit. But the Cherrim doing a lot of work, hasn't changed form yet, just feeling pretty good about its options, and I think the Serena's going to have to come in and try and pick up some damage, maybe just try and finish off this Zapdos, get the Groudon in, then you can bring back in your Kyogre. You're not locked into Water Spout anymore. You can start scolding things.
Yeah, that's true. But again, if you're the Zapdos, you have to be careful. You are at relatively low HP, and you have had your speed reduced by that Icy Wind. Potentially, even if Groudon comes in, changes up the weather, Zapdos is still going to be in quite a precarious situation. But you never know, it might be able to, switch out, have that reset, and can come back in a little bit later and start threatening in the sun with some of those weather balls. Cherrim, however, just going to go straight for a Protect here. Doesn't want to take any damage in this turn, as Tornadus goes for the Hurricane in the rain, which would have been 100% accurate. So Cherrim wisely protecting in the face of that. Serena is able to connect the triple axle onto the opposing Zapdos, and once again does get caught by the static here. It does, however, go for the second triple axle and picks up the KO. So Santino able to deal with that Zapdos.
I think that's exactly what Santino needed in that turn. The Zapdos forcing down to the last two for Wolfe. This is what we talked about at the top of the game. It's all about having that position and control of the weather. Yeah, you get the drought up, but the Kyogre's just in the back and is able to come in and deal with that kind of at its leisure. And it gets away. Yes, the Cherrim transforms, but I don't know if these two are going to be enough with a Kyogre in the back, especially a Choice Scarf variety. It has its pick of moves. It can Scald, it can Ice Beam, it can Thunder. The only thing it doesn't really want to do is, of course, throw out that Water Spout, but it's going to be a bit of a tricky one for Wolfe as soon as that Pokemon comes back.
Yeah, it's certainly a difficult situation here. Tornadus able to go for the Rain Dance, as Wolfe wasn't able to deal with it before getting locked down into this situation where he's unable to switch out the Groudon anymore. So Rain is going to be the dominant weather force on the field here, and Cherrim, as happy and delighted as it was to be out in its form, is going right back with Flower Gift being retracted there. Cherrim's going to absorb light. However, the sun has come out of the sky as the rain is joining on the battlefield. So Serena gets the opportunity to go for this triple axle here. Connects once, connects twice, and that is enough needed to be able to pick up the KO against the Cherrim. So now it is just Groudon facing down against the Pokemon on Santino's side. But we know with that Kyogre in the back, particularly with the Choice Scarf, it's just going to be able to come in and deal with this Kyogre nice and quickly.
Yeah, at any point, Santino can end this game, and I think maybe just limit testing a little bit, seeing how much damage he can do with this Serena Tornadus combination, which has been really, really good at seeing him through the mid-game since he had to switch out, of course, that Kyogre early on. Hurricane doing a good chunk, getting the confusion as well. And now time to see if you can get lucky on your triple axles.
Oh, well, no lucky at all, as it actually manages to avoid the confusion as well. Just going to add some insult to injury there to the Groudon. But this does buy Wolfe a little bit more time to really think about how to adapt, potentially going into this Game 3, particularly with the information that you've gleaned here from Santino and the adjustments that were made going into that Game 2. I think, like you said there, Adam, kind of working around the Tornadus and the Kyogre is a strategy that Wolfe has to try and figure out. Hurricane going to come down into the Kyogre, and with a critical hit as well for some extra style points there from the Tornadus, going to be able to take Game 2 for Santino.
Hey, balancing it up 1-1, and this battle between the two North American Players Cup 1 and 2 champions really going all the way. It's the winner's bracket, and you want to stay up there and keep going. Both of them have shown a very clear strategy on how to win, though, and I think Game 3, we're going to get more changes. They both kind of, they change from hide the weather setters to show the weather setters. I think we might go back to save them and play around them a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. It's just preserving those restricted Pokemon and making sure that the weather is, you know, not necessarily always out on the field for you, but that you have the option and kind of work towards that end game really well. And I think speaking of end games, let's jump into Game 3 and see exactly how this particular set is going to go. One player will remain undefeated in the tournament and the other one will be dropping down to the loser's bracket. But Wolfe making a lovely adjustment here. We've got Incineroar and one of my favorite Pokemon, the Dusclops, out here on the field as Kyogre and Serena join the field for the opposing side.
Definitely a little bit different from Wolfe, and I like that mix up. You know, the way that I think Santino's been putting himself in good positions is just by being so fast and just saying, you know what, yes, I do want to just deal damage first. That Choice Scarf Kyogre being so impactful, really make the Choice Scarf useless if you just set up a Trick Room, and that could be really, really big if that's something that the Kyogre and Serena pairing just can't deal with. So a lot going on. The Queenly Majesty, though, I do like it a lot. I think the fact it's keeping the Kyogre safe from that fake out means Wolfe's options are a little bit limited, and we may just see him switch it over to the Groudon.
Well, Kyogre just going to go straight away for the damage dealing move here, coming out into that opposing Incineroar, straight away picking up the KO against it. Huge damage from the Water Spout as Serena is able to go for a taunt. Really nice play here from Santino, being able to lock down any of those status moves that we know that Dust would like to go for, and it was indeed that Trick Room, which would have been great for Wolfe in the face of a Choice Scarf Kyogre.
This Serena's moveset is absolutely crazy. Being able to lock down stuff like the Dusclops, being able to take out threats like the Zapdos as well. It's kind of been doing everything on this team. You know, usually a lot of people bring it just for the ability, and you know, it's got a pretty good stat line, but it's one of those that has been doing so much work in this set. I don't think it can be ignored. I think Wolfe expected Santi to switch out the Kyogre there, expecting the Groudon to come in, but Santi just stuck with it and took out that Incineroar immediately. This Kyogre does not back down, and I think it's fair to say.
It is so brave. I mean, look at the damage it's dealing out to that opposing Groudon and putting Dusclops in a really precarious position as well. Not going to be able to steal too much of the Dusclops though, and Groudon's going to go for Fling with that Iron Ball going into that Kyogre. Huge damage. Of course, Iron Ball, a very damaging item to be flinging around on the battlefield, does deal a very heavy punch, and Kyogre going to be followed up by that Dusclops. Obviously, Taunted is only going to really be able to, with a sort of standard move pool, be able to go for something like that Nightshade, but it's not enough. Kyogre's going to still be on the field, but of course, it's not going to be dealing as much damage with those Water Spouts anymore.
No, you got to get out after you've started water spouting. That's fine, but you do have to leave after a certain point. If you don't get the knockouts with it, you've got to switch it around. Now I think the pressure's on Wolfe to try and take advantage of this. You know, knows that something's coming in. He's got to get rid of his Dusclops, thinks the Nightshades aren't enough. And this is a good change for Wolfe. This puts him in a much better position.
Yeah, the Entei coming in here is certainly very threatening. Serena going to go for that Grassy Glide into the Protect of the Groudon, so no damage coming out here, and just going to be the grassy terrain, just kind of re-dealing a little bit of HP here. But I love the Entei switch in here. There's so much that Entei can do to really kind of manipulate the battlefield at this point.
I think the Entei is going to be really important. Obviously, he wants to take advantage of the sun, and look at what it's staring down. The Rillaboom and the Serena must look like dinner for it. It feels like it's in a really good position to maybe try and just land huge attacks, take advantage of the sun. Not like the Rillaboom can slow it down anything either. I mean, it's really difficult to deal with an Entei, and this, I think, is probably Wolfe's end game win condition. Is actually the Entei. Just because of how much damage the Groudon took earlier on, I think that puts the pressure on something else to go for it.
Well, the Tornadus has joined the field, and this was certainly the thorn in Wolfe's side here, being able to go for those rain dances, and then of course the Hurricanes being 100% accurate in the rain as well. It can certainly crush the sunny dreams of Wolfe's side of the field. Rillaboom going to go for that Grassy Glide though into the Dusclops that switched in. You know, Trick Room wasn't able to go up. Dusclops was at low HP. It wasn't really going to be able to do anything too much in this match, but it did allow Wolfe the option to switch Pokemon again. But Rillaboom, it picked up a KO and then gets KO'd in retaliation. The sun in the sky with that Sacred Fire did huge damage coming out from from that Entei.
Yep, that's a lot of damage going down. But what's really important for Santi in that turn is he got the knockout onto the Dusclops. And that means Wolfe is down to his last 2. And that means that the Rain Dance just kind of wraps this one up a little bit. You know, just sort of tidies it up, I think, and just makes this really easy. Obviously, he doesn't have access to Water Spout anymore. He does, but, you know, it's not going to do that much damage.
Not optimal.
Yeah, it's not a premium Water Spout, but it is available if you're feeling like it. Probably going to lean over onto something like the Scald, but the weather's just going to be easy to get controlled with the Rain Dance from the Tornadus. So I think Santi in a great position, you know, pick up 1 knockout this turn, maybe go after that Entei because it's a little scarier in my opinion, but then, you know, you can deal with Groudon a little bit down the line.
Yeah, that's the thing. Santino's really got control here at this point. You can go for that Rain Dance. I guess the one thing you have to be wary about, though, is if Wolfe maybe protects a Pokemon you call the wrong target necessarily with something like the Scald, then it would allow the other Pokemon on Wolf's side to pick up the KO. But Santino not going to play into that, just bringing the Serena back here onto the field as Tornadus goes for that Rain Dance. So, you know, bringing the Rain to protect the Grass-type partner Pokemon, I think is really nice in the face of both of Wolf's Pokemon as well. And it does mean that Kyogre can come in when the Rain's already on the field, meaning Tornadus doesn't have to go for it in that turn. The Sacred Fire, however, in the Rain still does a huge chunk to that opposing Serena there. And of course, the Entei moving very, very fast here as well, probably indicative of the item choice on Wolf's side of the field, as Groudon follows up with the Heat Crash as well. Again, thanks to the item on Serena, regaining a little bit of HP, Serena easily going to be able to survive this, and the double up allowed the Tornadus to freely set up that Rain Dance.
Yep, getting that Rain Dance through really, really big. And this Tornadus now has access to Hurricane, which is going to help it out to just deal the damage required. And I think Santi playing it smart, playing it safe there with the removal of the Kyogre. When you come down to the single target issue, you really want to be able to make sure you get it right. And if you can use your other 2 Pokemon available, because he does have that extra Pokemon over Wolfe, if you can use them to take out one of the opposition, then you never have to make a mistake in guessing and getting it wrong. So very, very smart by him. You know, even if something gets knocked out now, knows that the Groudon just protected and how to kind of play around that one.
Exactly, and you know, the Entei going for the Sacred Fire again, you know, indicative it's not going to be able to go for any protects if it's going to be locked into this move, allowing the Tornadus to, I think, probably freely just target down into that slot. The Grassy Glide, of course, not being able to target down into that Groudon, but the Hurricane hitting down onto the Entei, not going to be getting any confusion on this opportunity, and Santino now free to bring the Kyogre in from at the back.
Yep, and knows that there's no real protecting options available. The Entei, of course, is showing off that it's locked into one move. I think the Sacred Fire, you know, might be able to sneak a knockout, but you do have to respect it. But the Groudon as well, just protected, and you know that you can go after it with something like the Scald in this turn. So really kind of wise. I like that the Tornadus is just applying that pressure with the Hurricane, trying to keep things locked down a little bit. And yeah, here we go. Kyogre gets to move first. I think this just wraps it up.
Yeah, huge damage here going into that Groudon, removing the restricted full Wolfe, just leaving the Entei here in play. And you can see it is slower than that opposing Groudon. Is not actually even able to pick up the KO against it, but does actually get the cheeky burn. So Kyogre will be going down at the end of this turn as the Hurricane comes out, does huge damage. Again, not picking up the KO, but getting that confusion. There's a lot of these secondary effects coming through.
I'll be honest, I didn't know how much a Sacred Fire was going to do to the Kyogre in the rain. I was like, it might get there, but it didn't. The burn will obviously try to, but the last turn of the grass. Oh, this Kyogre's going to get to wrap the game up.
Yeah, I thought it was going to go down. I forgot all about the grassy terrain, obviously activating first. The Kyogre in all of its glory in this particular game, and I think it has been obviously the hero for Santino here in this battle of the Weather Wars, able to go for that choice Scarfed Scald into the Entei, picking up the set for Santino. So Santino going to remain undefeated here at the Invitational. Wolfe still in the tournament, but will just